What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Classic Octane. I am Taylor. Today is going to be a Will It Run video, which I know you guys love so much. We are actually going to be starting on the next customer project. So, little update. This guy is the one you saw the video on of the M unit. It's almost done. I just need to paint the gas tank, but we're actually holding off on painting that tank until we find a gas cap. It's actually proving to be a little bit difficult finding a 7778 CB550 gas cap, and I don't want to paint this tank and then have us, end up not being able to find a good replacement cap. So I'm holding off on that, which means we have a free day to move on to the next project. It was going to be the 78 BMW R100 that's out here in the driveway, but we've already ordered a bunch of custom parts for it from Cognito Moto, modern GSXR front end, all that kind of stuff, but they are pretty far behind. I think it's gonna be like another 4 weeks before they get here. So we're gonna try and knock out another build in the meantime. So let me go pull it out of storage. We'll pull it in, put it on the lift, see if we can get that thing running. Here she is. This is a 1975 Honda CB750. I bought this bike a little over a year ago. You guys have probably seen it on the channel before. It came with a white gas tank, but this one's a little bit better condition, so we're gonna use this one for this build. This is going to be similar to the bikes I've built in the past. Obviously, a lot of the bikes I've built have been CB550s. It's been over a year since I've built the 750 on the channel, so I'm excited to get back into them. I personally kind of want to build a 750 for myself. I want to have a custom 350, 550, and 750, just because I'm a Honda hoarder. So the main goal today is going to be to do what I call a pre-build inspection, and that's going through every system of the bike and judging its condition, seeing what needs to be replaced, what's in good condition, how's the suspension look, the frame, mainly the health of the engine is what I'm most concerned with. Electrical, most of that's going to be replaced anyway. Tires are going to be replaced. Condition of the wheels is important. Do we need to replace the wheels, replace the spokes, bearings, that kind of stuff, just to give us a full kind of health indicator of the bike before we fully dive into it. This bike is going to be somewhat of a clone to that moss green CB550 I built a couple of months ago. It's going to have a dark moss green tank, brown seat. This one will have side covers that are going to be moss green as well as the front fender going to be chopped. So it's going to be kind of a tracker-ish street. It's still going to be a very good street bike. It's going to have a little bit of those vintage knobbies on it. It's going to be a really cool build. I'm excited to dive into it. So when I bought this bike, I bought it knowing that one of the cylinders has low compression. And what I'm hoping for is, I've had, 5 to 7 bikes with low compression before. Almost all of them, except for maybe 1 or 2, came back to life. Once I was able to get the bike running, we got those compression numbers right back up. So what typically happens is one of the cylinders is going to have a valve that's open when the bike is sitting, just naturally how four-stroke engines work. One of the valves is going to be open, and it can develop a little bit of rust around that valve seat. That can cause the compression readings to turn out low. When the bike is running and those valves are going up and down, it cleans that rust off within, I would say, 20, 30 seconds. And I've seen engines go 40, 50 PSI higher on compression readings just after the engine running for 30 seconds to a minute. So I'm going to do a full compression test so we know which one of our cylinders is suspect. And then we will go through typical will it run style, see if we can get this thing running. Then we'll recheck all the compression. Fingers crossed it comes back up. If not, I will start to look through my storage, and I have a couple of spare 750 engines. We'll find the best condition one and run with that. So that's going to be the main goal today. What do you say we try to get this pig running? The gas tank out of the way so we can work around it. Went ahead and pulled the spark plugs out. When I store bikes, I like to make sure to keep spark plugs in them as well as rags in the intake, especially if there's no carburetors on there. If there's carbs on there, really you can just close the choke. I just want to keep stuff from being able to crawl in there, or debris or whatever falling in there somehow. It's just better to keep the inside as clean as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and just start off with a compression test right off the bat. And what I want to do, okay, there's no oil in here. I want to make sure that we can turn the bike over using the electric start. It's a real pain to try and get compression readings with just a kickstart. because the engine really doesn't turn over that fast. So you got to kick it like 8 times to try and get a compression reading. So I'd rather be able to use that electric start. First and foremost, don't want to turn it over too much without oil in it. So let me throw some oil in there, and then we'll throw a jump box on this old battery, and we'll see if our electrical system seems to be up to the task. If not, we'll have to start there. All right, got the jump box all hooked up. We're gonna turn the key. Low oil pressure light, neutral light, perfect, exactly what we'd expect. Hit the start button. Nothing. Okay, stand by. Let me, I'm just gonna rig up something simple to get our starter solenoid going. Then we can turn it over with that. Okay, just threw a wire on here that we should be able to just ground. There we go. So something with our wiring from the start button to here is disconnected, but not a big deal. Let's go ahead and turn it over for a little while, see if our low oil pressure light turns off. Just turned off. See if it comes back on. Come on. Yep, there it is. Perfect. So we should be ready to hook up the compression tester and get our numbers. We're just going to go in numerical order. Start with cylinder number 1. See how we're looking. About 130. Perfect. Let me get a little notepad so I can write this down. Move on to number 2. About 120. Let's do it one more time. Yeah, I'm going to say 120. Slightly lower, but not a concerning amount. I'd say if they're within, I don't know, 10%, I think it's fine. I think some people say 5%, some people say 15%. Go for number 3. Exactly 120 as well. All right, now it's just down to number 4, which really this is great news so far. You know, ideally number 4 tests out fine, but I kind of remember the seller telling me that that was the low compression one, which is why I kept it for last. So let's jump on that side, see what we got. Go for 4. See if I can reach my wire here. It's not 0. Let's try again. Yeah, we're looking right about 80 right now. Okay, so again, I'm going to say that that's a good sign for 2 reasons. One, it does have some compression, meaning there's not a hole in a piston or, you know, a big broken ring, something like that, ringland broken off a piston, something like that. It's not catastrophic damage. 2, since it's an outside cylinder, that's one that's even more prone to have water get into it or some kind of moisture when the bike is sitting, which can cause that rust I was talking about around the valve seat. So I'm going to continue on that assumption that it's just a little bit of rust, and we're going to continue to try and get this bike to run, and I'm going to bring you guys along for the ride to see if those numbers come up. So we got right at 80 on the compression test. So let me write that down. So we're looking at 130, 120, 120, 80. So if we can get this up to around that 120, 130 mark, I'm going to give this guy a stamp of approval. Next thing I need to dive into is going to be, let's just start with the ignition system. So I'm just going to hardwire these coils to make sure that we are in fact getting power. I guess I could test that first. We'll test the coils right now to see if we get power when the kill switch is in the run position. If we are getting good power, we'll throw some spark plugs on here, turn the engine over, make sure we're getting spark, then we can move on to fuel after that. So to check power to these coils, I'm just looking for a wire that's black with a white stripe. All classic Hondas are the same. That is 12 volt power that goes through our kill switch and into both coils. So it's right on this side. I'm just gonna test it with a good old fashioned test light. So we got ground on one side, positive side of the battery, makes it turn on. We know our light's good. So we'll follow this black with a white stripe. Okay, so it's these two top posts right here. Kill switch is on, key still on. Try to stick it, oh, there we go, we got power. Test my theory, I should be able to hit this kill switch and this light should turn off. Boom. Cool, we'll test the right side coil. Good, does it turn off? Yes, on, cool. So we know we're getting good power to our coils. So let's throw some spark plugs in there. I'm actually gonna bolt this down so that it can have a good ground too. It looks like this is just kind of floating around loose in here. I wanna make sure the coils are grounded properly as well. We'll test that, then we can dive into putting spark plugs on, checking if we actually have spark at the end of the leads. So we're ready to test for spark now. Got a spark plug in a few different leads. Yeah, we got power to the coil and everything. So let's see what we got. Key on, ignition on. We'll test right side coil first. Nothing. See if one of these on from the left side coil does anything. Nothing on that either. Okay. Pull the points cover off. See if we got any corrosion or anything under there. Apparently it's already missing a screw. It's probably because it's blocked by this crash bar. We will be removing that, but I'm glad it was there because it's definitely seen the ground at some point. Alrighty, let's see what we got in here. Everything looks complete. Yeah, there's some corrosion on the points. Not terrible. So what I like to do is just take a little piece of the sandpaper. This is 1000 grit. Fold it over on itself. Stick it between the 2 points and let it close. And just work it like that. That way you're kind of evenly sanding both sides. I'll be able to see better on this side. Just like that, because ideally we have a perfectly flat mating surface between these two, so we don't want to introduce some kind of crazy angle or something. We also don't want to remove a huge amount of material. We're just looking to remove any corrosion buildup. So I want to go ahead and test these points. And one thing that's pretty common with these is there's a little isolator that basically keeps the arm that moves isolated from the, like, being grounded through anywhere else. Because what you want is for that to break the circuit every time that that gap opens. So a good way to test that is you can take your multimeter, put it on continuity. So it'll beep when there's continuity there. It would make sense that we have continuity when the points are closed. But if we hold it on there and we open it, that should lose continuity when the point is open. That's constant continuity no matter what. Test on this side. Exact same thing. Let me show you on a bike with known good points, and you can spot the difference. I can show you on this CB500 right here, exact same points set up. So right now we should have connection. Now if I open the point, we lose it. That's what actually lets it break that circuit, and that's what makes the spark plugs for those 2 cylinders. In this case, number 1 and number 4, fire is when that opens up, it discharges, fires the spark plug. So that's a good way to be able to test them. You can also test it on the brand new point itself. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and throw in the fresh points, fresh condensers, because I have them. Throw that in on the CB750, see if that makes any difference for us on the ignition front. Fresh points and condensers are in. I'm only about 60% sure the points are actually bad. I think most of our problem was probably in the condensers, but I had the parts, so I figured why not throw them in anyway. Went ahead and set the point gaps as well, so we should be ready to test. Do key on, take this random spark plug here, grab a wire. Oh yeah, we got spark on one. Let's try the next one. Spark there. Can we go 3 for 3? Nice, let me grab a 4th spark plug. And we'll test the last one. Woo! Oh yeah, we got spark on all 4, people. Ready to move on. Now that I know I have spark in all 4 plugs, I'm going to go ahead and actually install them, plug the wires in. Then we can move on to, I'm going to just find a set of carbs, stick them on here, and I'm going to start with just spraying some carb cleaner straight down there. We'll hit the key, or the wire in this case, see if we get any pops and bangs. I believe we're ready. I put the carbs on. I don't have a return spring for these carbs. I gotta locate one of those. So I'll have to manually push the throttle linkage back down. Let's open it. I think we're ready to go. Key on. Ignition on. All right, people, let's see what happens. Oof, we're running a little low on charge. Just open a little bit. No such luck at the moment. I'm a little worried about how low our jump box is. Let me grab my other jump box and see if that's any better. I ended up just charging my jump box for a little while because my other one was dead too. I'm about to try it again. One thing I noticed when I was about to spray some more brake clean in there is if you're going to try to use brake clean as, you know, starting fluid, don't get the non-flammable version. It's not going to work. That could be part of the reason we didn't get any pops and bangs the first time. So what I'm going to do now is just a little bit of gas in a squirt bottle. I can just squirt some down each carb. And what I'm looking for is just some pops and bangs, enough for us to justify bringing the auxiliary gas tank, hooking up the rest. I could argue that I should just do that now, but anyway. Key on, battery box on, ignition on. I'm gonna still go no choke. Let's see. There's still enough pops and bangs. Let's get the auxiliary fuel tank and see if we can get this thing to run for a little bit longer. Seem to have an oil leak out of the bike. And we need to get the fan out. Let me air this place out a little bit. Okay, let it air out a little bit. Our oil leak was just once the engine started to pump oil back into the tank, our oil was just a little bit overfilled, so it started to come out of the breather. So I just wanted to make sure it wasn't like an oil line had ruptured or something that could be catastrophic. Not that, just started to come out of the breather. I still have the drain pan down here just in case. I did remove some of the oil just to try and get the level a little bit more accurate. But, man, that blew so much crap out of the exhaust. I mean, there's like junk on the floor all the way back to here. So yeah, I want to run it, and I want to run it a little bit longer. Again, just to try and heat cycle everything, you know, get the engine kind of moving, some oil circulating. Then we can recheck that compression. So let's fire it up a second time. Fuel's on, keys on. I'm gonna see if it'll start back up with no choke. Okay, I'll choke. Oh, helps if I turn my ignition on too. sit here and idle like this for a little while, but I need to get some circulation going. Let it run for another, I don't know, minute or two. Judging by my thermometer, it wasn't really running on number 4, at least not very consistent, which is not necessarily a good sign. But let's see what our compression says. We were right at 80 before. Yeah, see that spark plug's pretty wet, which is not necessarily a good sign. That means it was getting fuel, but not burning at all. I'd give us a 40% chance that this worked. That might even be generous. Okay, here. Key on, let's make sure our ignition's off so that this thing doesn't try and start while we're doing this. Should be ready to go. Everybody cross your fingers. $50. Well, now we got carbs on here, so let me make sure the throttle's all the way open. That can actually make a really big difference. Wah, wah. 75. Shucks. So it looks like this engine, it needs to have the top end pulled to see what's really going on. See if it's still just really heavy corrosion on the valves, or what it's pointing to now is maybe an issue with a piston ring. Might have a broken one, you know, it didn't take out a chunk of the ring land or anything, but maybe a piston ring is cracked or broken, and that's just not letting it build up enough compression. Let me think about what our options are. Okay, so where we're at right now, this engine, like I just mentioned, is going to be coming out either way. You can't do a top end on a 750 while the engine is in the bike, so we won't be able to really tear it apart. You actually can't even get these valve covers off with the engine in the bike. One of the things that's nicer about a 500 or a 550, you can access all of that without pulling the engine. So we're going to be pulling this engine regardless. I have 2 CB750 engines over on the shelf of unknown condition. One of them I think is locked up, so I don't think that's going to be any better than what we have here. The other one may or may not be a good contender. I also have another complete CB750 in storage that I don't have a title for or anything, so it's not going to be a bike that I would build to, you know, sell to a customer because I don't have a title for it. So what do you say that I do another Will It Run video on that bike? We can see what the condition of that engine is because it's complete, like I said, so it should, in theory, not take much more work than this did to get running. I can test all the compression, I can make sure that that engine's good to go in that frame. Then I'll just pull that engine, pull this engine, do a switcheroo, and then we'll be in business. So I think that's what we're gonna do. So in the next, I don't know, probably a couple of days, because I think I'm gonna do it tomorrow because I really need to get this bike going as quickly as we can. I'm going to do another Will It Run on another CB750, and we'll cross our fingers that that one checks out. So stay tuned for that. I appreciate you guys watching as always. I know you guys love these Will It Runs, and I love making them because making old things work is literally my biggest passion. So I appreciate you guys watching as always, and I'll see you on the next one.